Welcome to Office Hours. I'm Nora, this is Sto, and we provide practical advice to independent artists. And today we're going to talk about how shitty managers can really mess it up for you. So we all know that a good manager can really help your career, but a bad manager, I think a bad manager can do more harm than a good manager can do good. So we're going to talk today about some of the things that you should watch out for, some examples. If y'all have examples you want to share, drop them in the chat or in the comments below. But yeah, that's what we're getting into. What's up, Sto?
Yeah. Make sure to hit the like if you like what you're hearing. Hit the subscribe button. We've got about 700 people here now. Send this to your friends. Send this to your peers and whatnot. Send the channel, this video, etc.
Send it to a shitty manager that you know, or send it to an artist that has a bad manager that you're worried about and be like, thought of you.
Oh my God. Maybe don't use us for petty bullets, but
that's not petty. That's careful. That's caring. Okay, look, this is a good jump into it. Hold on. I'll tell you why. It's a good jumping into it moment, because I think one of the ways that bad managers show up is that you have artists whose managers are people that they came up with, or friends that they know from back in the day, or where there's like a heavy emotional investment or attachment. Mm-hmm. But maybe that person doesn't have the knowledge or the skills or the emotional intelligence to do this work. But it's a sensitive topic because of that bonded relationship. And so that person might not be open to critical feedback. So it's not jabby, it's not petty, but it might be a helpful way of saying, hey, maybe this person can serve a better role on your team, because as a manager, they're doing you a disservice, or they're not good for you, or they're hurt, whatever it might be. So I don't think it's a jab. I think it's one of those real ways that this is one of the ways that I've seen like the most interruptions happen, is when people have managers that they're emotionally connected to, and that's why they're managing them, and not because this person has like skill or capacity.
I think we got the wording, a little better towards the end there. I'm not sure if hey, heard you're a shitty manager. Here's an episode to watch, bro. Like, but yes, pardon me if I'm looking off to the side. I just got a puppy the other day, so he's not even old yet. So like, I'm just trying to make sure that he's all right and stuff like that. So bear with me if you see me, constantly looking over. But I'm here and I'm excited to talk about this, because I don't know if I agree with the whole like bad managers do more damage than good managers do help, but I can definitely see that.
First of all, my nephew is so cute, and I can't wait till you all meet Sto's dog. But no, I'll give you an example. Recently, I was working with an artist and we were booking a show, and we sent all the information, and the artist wanted us to communicate with the manager. Great, no problem. So this manager, one, was not CCing their artist in any of these communications. So already for me, that's a red flag. I'm going to assume that you guys are communicating, but I don't know. But everything that we talked about with the manager, this manager got increasingly aggressive, increasingly disrespectful. They went ahead and redesigned a whole bunch of assets without discussing it with us, so that it seemed like it was their artist's own show rather than a collaborative event that we were doing. The things that they had committed to in terms of like showing up for sound check, which is important because we want to have like quality control at an event. The manager was like, well, we know this venue and we don't need to be like, just unprofessionalism, disrespect, attitude. And then the manager, this is what really got me. Then the manager started getting into, well, I'm busy, so I don't have time to read these emails. Bruh, your job as a manager, especially if your artist isn't CC'd on them, is to read the email, because you are speaking on behalf of someone else. And so if my artist and the artist had a close relationship. And so that was the only saving factor, because if all I was doing was working off of this manager and the way that they were working, I would have respectfully told them, we don't need you on our event and you can kick rocks. So to me, like and that's not the first time that something like that I've experienced something like that with a manager. So here's your manager, 1, being selfish, 2, being unprofessional, 3, just like being weird, like just all the things. I'm going to kick you off the show. Now your manager is fumbling an opportunity for you. So to me, that kind of stuff can do a lot. And I'm never going to book you again. And when I talk about you to other people, I'm going to say, this was a really bad experience I had. So book them at your own, like purview or whatever. But I didn't have a positive experience with this person and their team, because your manager is a representative of you. So that kind of stuff is, and what ended up happening, just to finish the story, is at the event, I pulled the artist aside and I was like, listen, I would not feel right if I didn't share my concerns with you, especially because you were not included in these emails. So I don't know if you know what your manager was saying on behalf of you. So I just want to let you know, and you do with that information whatever you want to do. And he was like, oh my God, thank you so much. So sorry about that. That's not how we operate. Da, 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 da. But anyone else would have cut you off and walked away. So I do think that a bad manager can do, especially when like it's early career, the scene is small, the community is small. I think that kind of stuff can do a lot of damage.
Well, and I certainly agree. And again, a lot of artists, I feel like, chase or really want managers, but you have to remember they are operating on your behalf in a lot of cases, and so making sure that they aren't completely like disrespecting what you actually stand for, especially in circumstances like this where, I mean, I've had situations like that too, where it's just like these two are supposed to be friends, but a third party has come in and is now, one, speaking on behalf of someone else and simultaneously being super disrespectful. And so again, as you just stated, that permeates, especially now. I don't know if I've seen something as wild as like the manager not CCing the artist while they're just spewing wild stuff. But again, like, I just can't imagine where your manager, the person who's supposed to be, because that's the thing, it's about having your back. Like, I don't know, we could talk about this for a million years, but there's so many managers that are just out here clout chasing. And it's just like, they're not serving, because like a manager is supposed to serve you. Like, I know that sounds crazy. And I know that sounds like, oh, well, like, all this, but like, that's their job, period. And so when they go out here and they're not reading emails, and when they do read them, they're speaking disrespectfully, not showing up to sound check. Those are 3 pretty basic things that a manager should easily be able to handle and easily be able to do, especially when it's amicable and stuff like that. So if your manager is speaking, again, like, that's what's so important here. And I think that, I mean, there's other things we're going to talk about, but like, they're speaking, they're representing you. And so if they're not moving the way that you want them to move, especially when they're speaking to people that you're trying to get closer with and get connected with, like, you got to get them out of there.
Yeah. I mean, we do a whole episode on an effective manager, which is episode 70. If you want to go back through the archives, which I think is, which is worth watching. But a manager, it's like a manager works for you, but also directs you, because it's like kind of a complicated position. But at the end of the day, a manager is there to serve your best interests, and does that by representing you, does that by furthering your vision, does that by taking a back seat so that you can shine, does that by using their relationships on your behalf. So if you and your manager don't share the same goals, right? Like, one, y'all got to be clear you're working in the same direction, not you're trying to go here and they're trying to go there. Because if the manager's goal is to become famous or to become powerful, then already you're at odds, right? So You want to make sure that you and the manager, not just in terms of like what they want for your career, but also what they want for themselves in relationship to you. Like, why are they working with you? Why are they managing? What do they get out of this? You want that alignment to happen. So you want the same vision. You want an understanding of their work ethic. You want to know how they deal with people. Are they ego driven? Are they relationship driven? You want to know if they can have comprehension. Like literally 90% of management is comprehending the documents that you're reading and able to understand if this is like in the best interest or not. So some of the stuff around being an effective manager, I really, really recommend y'all go back to episode 70 and check that one out. Because it might seem basic. Here's another thing I've seen. So I don't know if you've seen this also, is when managers perform like clout rather than being in clout.
Oh,
How do I say this? Like, I'll give you an example. We were doing a show. Actually, this was at Dead Music Fest, and we were doing, I do this festival, and it's such a community focused, and it's such
wait,
a
what was that? You do what?
Dead Music Fest, which is an independent hip hop festival for artists of all scope and scale. Actually, submissions are opening soon, so keep an eye out on this
I was
channel.
about to say, I think submissions might be opening up soon. So if you're looking for that easy opportunity, I can't find an easier one right there. Follow the directions.
But part of Dead Music Fest is that artists come for sound check. They stay for each other's show. There's no VIP. There's no green room. And part of that is because it facilitates real collaborations. And we've had amazing collaborations and partnerships and outcomes come out of it. And this artist's manager refused to let the artist participate in soundcheck. So like the artist was there, but the manager intentionally kept the artist away from everybody else.
Was there a reason?
Because they were an artist and they need, like, as if somehow this isolation made the artist, mind you, everyone's like on the same level, no, right? Like, this is not like a tiered festival. This is not, we don't look at your vanity metrics. So it's not like anyone came in with a gabillion fans. Everyone was like but the manager isolated the artist from everybody else. So this time that could have been spent on the artist and the manager, networking, building relationships, getting behind the scenes footage, connecting, talking to the DJ, talking to the venue, talking to the organizers. They kept the artist like over here, with all that like persona of like what they think being an artist means. And again, don't ever want to work with them again because you're not community focused, right? Like we're not in values alignment, but and this was like years ago. This must have been like our first or second Dead Music Fest. And I still remember that artist and that manager in a negative way. And so I'm much less open to bringing them on into an event if that's how you're going to act. Because, and y'all, what this comes back to is that the music business is a relational business. It's all about relationships and it's all about how you treat people. So our last episode, when we talked about authentic branding, no amount of like taking pictures and posting on Instagram is going to take the place of how people feel when they have interactions with you. So that at the end of the day, whether you're branding or you're building an audience or you're trying to get it comes down to this back and forth, like emotional connections that you're building with people. And some of y'all, your managers are really interrupting that.
And again, this that's why like and again, go back to our manager episode, but it's like it's not just about landing the show, landing the placement or whatever. It's so much bigger than that. And again, like if your manager isn't like well versed in actually communicate, because it's one thing to be like, hey, you should do this and you should do this and you should do this, but if they can't communicate with you, for that matter, let alone the people that you're trying to collaborate with, it's doing you a disservice. And again, I'm going to keep going back to this because they're representing you. Because it makes sense. You want a manager to kind of offload some of the workload that you already have. That makes sense. that if they're out here communicating and handling your business inquiries and not speaking, it's not even, I don't know. It always blows my mind, I guess, sometimes hearing bad manager stories, because it's not hard to serve your artist. I've always felt that way, but I think, like Nora said, a lot of managers are more concerned with making themselves more famous. And so it really is important to sit down and ask, what are their goals? Because, and there's nothing, like, again, there's nothing wrong with being a manager that wants to like evolve or whatever, but like, you should come first in this space. And if they're not willing to do that, and if they're willing to show, again, that, like, no, I don't think any manager really should be cutting off communication at any point in the process. Like, if you're talking to the sound check people, at some point, your artist needs to be involved in that conversation. And so to completely cut them off, again, whether it's sound check, email, other opportunities, I don't care what it is. Like, and the point I actually meant to make earlier is that you're supposed to be a team.
Yeah.
It's not, I do feel like some managers almost have this like competitiveness with artists that they're with, because they're getting all the attention and they're getting all this and that and the other. It's like, they're the artist. Like, if you, and that's the thing, if you can't handle that as a manager, don't be a manager. You're not ready to be a manager. Like, you just want to be in front of the camera and all that stuff. I'm not going to crash out here, but like, nothing makes me more upset than people trying to get close to artists to take advantage of them so that they can skyrocket themselves up the ladder. Like, that's not what being a manager is. And I'll be the first one to be like, listen, I feel like you do, as an industry, need to do a better job of talking about the good managers. But both of us have seen so many artists get locked in with managers that, I'll say it, don't care about your career. Like, not just on some, oh, they've made some mistakes here and stuff. That's going to happen. I'm talking about on some, they're trying to be the face of your career. That makes no sense. And that's, for me, it's the immediate eject button.
Yeah, I don't know that, man. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know that managers don't care. I just think they're like inexperienced, unskilled. They haven't done their research. They haven't studied. They haven't like done the work, but maybe they don't care. I don't know.
My bad. I just mean some. I don't need managers coming for me and being like, I care. It's like, there's plenty of managers that care. I know.
Yeah. But something you said, Sto, like, I think that's an important piece, is the manager's job is not just to book the event, right? I think one of the things that bad managers do is they treat everything as like an independent, how do I say this? Like once it's done, as opposed to what they really should be doing is creating long-term opportunities, right? They leverage the one event into something else. And so some of the worst managers I've seen treat everything as like a one and done. Mm-hmm. And so they're more likely to be flippant or disrespectful or uninvested or just disconnected in those spaces. But a good manager is going to take a good manager is going to work with you to see into the future, is going to see how doing this thing today is setting you up for next month and 3 months and 6 months and 9 months and a million years from now. And so you want someone who sees that not just in like the tangible opportunities, but also in the relationships with people. And this might be a good time to go back and watch one of our networking and relationship building episodes, which we did like early when office hours started, because that, again, that is the core of this work. Is that like people to people piece. And when I started managing, I knew nothing about business, let alone the music industry. But what I did know was how to cultivate relationships and connect with people. And that's what got me started in the industry and what allowed me to like very successfully manage an artist for many years. That was, I could build relationships. I asked questions. I leveraged. I gave as well as asked. And so I think that piece of it, that like the so-called soft skills, is one of the places that artists don't check for when they're building a relationship with a potential manager. They want to know, well, who else have you worked with? Or they want to see like your credentials. But sussing out some of those so-called softer skills, that's really important.
Yeah, because even just using the festival thing as an example, it's like if you land a festival, like great, like we're not trying to take away the fact that landing that is a thing, but it's just after that, there, and I feel like that's what separates immediately. It's just that extra effort. You're on the festival, dang, let's see who sounds like us to see if we can make something happen while we're there. Dang, let's see what press outlets are covering the event. Especially if you're on like the independent level and you're just now getting a fan base and stuff like that, it's like those little things are what help you actually build a fan base. Like, yes, the festival, the performance, yes, that's super important. I'm not saying otherwise, but you can get more out of that if you have a manager that's willing to do those extra bits. Hey, let's not just link up with the sound. Let's see if we can find who's actually in charge of this, shake their hand, talk to them to see what other events maybe that they have planned for the rest of the year. It's just like even just a few simple motions can snowball into something great. But the minute you have a manager that's like, oh, well, I landed that event, you're on your own, kid. Like that, I'm not saying that that's not still doing a service, but it's also like, sheesh, like we started the race, but we didn't even get halfway through before we've cut off all the other opportunities. And that's the thing, these other extra parts don't cost money. I'm sorry, guy. I didn't mean to wake you up. That's my bad. All these extra bits, again, allow you to kind of build a career after, and that's what it is. I'm sorry. It's about what happens after the event too. It's not just about, hey, I land, your name's on the flyer, you're performing third, fourth, fifth, or whatever. I nailed it. Job done. No, if you can the whole point of a manager is to keep making things happen. If you take one opportunity and turn that into, again, meeting with people, not just the artists, but the professionals behind the event, anybody, fans, anything like that, getting, even simple, just even pitching ideas for stuff like a festival, like, hey, here, we need to get QR code cards pressed up or something like that. We need to get CDs going. Let's actually, here's one. Let's see who's actually attending the joint and see if we can link up with fans and do a little meetup type deal. It doesn't begin and end at the placement. And I even think some artists kind of get mixed up and think, well, if I get the placement, all good. But it's just, we've been saying this for all 96 episodes. It almost feels like the placement is not the end all be all. Genuinely, that is just the beginning. And your manager should be kind of helping you navigate the steps to what happens after the placement. That's honestly the big key part. It's not just about landing these opportunities. It's about how can I take advantage of that to create more. A lot of bad managers, like Nora just said, just cut it off at the opportunity. I did my job, boom, bam, bang. Okay, how can I get on Instagram looking wild? That helps nobody.
This is a little bit of like a same topic, but different direction, because the other place that management can really, really cause harm is financially. And we've heard so many stories of managers who take money, who lie about, like what the offer was, whatever. And so when you're recruiting or scouting management, one of the things you want to make sure of is, can you talk about money comfortably? If you can't even do the negotiation about percentages and value and that kind of stuff, one, that tells you as an artist, like something you need to work on. But two, if you don't feel comfortable having that conversation with this person, probably a red flag that you should pay attention to, right? Because this person's going to receive money on your behalf, is going to have access to accounts if you build it that way. So one is that you should be able to talk about money. And two is that you should have systems built out for how you're tracking the money, how you're doing audits, how you're reviewing the money. Like,
what was that? Doing what?
Doing audits. So if you don't know, and this is like, maybe people don't know what an audit is. So like these are the kinds of questions we want you to ask at office hours. What is an audit? How do you do it? Audit basically says you take all the money related information that you have and make sure it tracks up. Sto said he was going to pay $100. He said he was going to send it to Venmo. on our shared budget doc. He put $100. So let's just check. Did I get that $100? Check, 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 check. Everything aligns. Look, it's literally auditing is like checking the receipts. Literally.
If your manager is against that, get them the out of there. Because
Right.
I've heard many a story about, oh, well, you don't trust me enough. I don't want to do an audit. There's absolutely no way. Your manager, if they're handling your fund, I don't care if it's $1, $10, or $1,000 or $1 million. Do a motherfucking audit, because you do not. I mean, we keep hearing it. How many times have we heard? It doesn't matter if it's athletes, musicians, movie stars. It doesn't matter. We've heard so many stories about managers not doing their job, putting those assets towards illegal activity and stuff like that. So I just, any manager or anybody that's handling your funds and immediately pushes away at an audit, get them out of there immediately, because that can honestly really snowball into something really bad that you're not even a part of or not even aware of. I mean, so
yeah,
that's a big one.
That ties into the bigger piece of, please make sure you have a contract. Even if it is your homie that you grew up with, even if it is your girlfriend's cousin, even if it is your best, make sure you have a contract, because what that does is it clearly outlines not just what this person does for you and how they're compensated, but also what that compensation comes from. Do you have all your masters, or is this manager trying to get a piece of your masters? They shouldn't. That's sketchy. But a contract lets you, one, make sure it's all written down, but facilitates the space for y'all to have those conversations so that you know for sure that y'all are on the same page. And then if you want to get really advanced, it outlines like the auditing process. It outlines power of attorney. Can your manager sign for you? Have you given them that permission? Can they okay things on your behalf? So, and I know sometimes people are like, oh, but that's my boy, that's my girl, I trust her.
Exactly.
Cool, great, wonderful. Put it on paper. Put it on paper that you
It shouldn't
trust.
be a big deal.
It shouldn't be a big deal. And if nothing else, it helps you see, right? Like the contract is a tool to facilitate the conversations that you should be having. And then when things go wrong, because inevitably you're going to butt heads, you're in a creative context with high pressure, working on things that mean a lot to you, inevitably you and your manager are going to have conflict. Great. That could be really generative. I personally believe that if you can't have conflict with someone, you don't really trust them. So that process of like beefing it out, squabbling, hashing it out, and then moving forward, that's actually really important. And organizational psychology, to not to nerd out, like actually has names for that process that you go through. But the contract, when you do have that kind of conflict, the contract gives you a document to go back on and be like, look, well, what did we decide? Because sometimes people forget, sometimes people get it wrong, sometimes people misinterpret. So make sure, like if you take 3 takeaways from today's episode, is that make sure your manager is clear and transparent with you. And that includes contracts, that includes being able to talk about all the things, that includes being informed about emails and like content of things. Make sure that your manager has good people skills, because at the end of the day, this is all about like relationships, and your manager is a representative of you. And 3 is put it on paper. Have a contract, talk about all the things. Those are my 3 takeaways. And I really, again, I'll share this. I really recommend that y'all go back and also watch episode 70 in relation to this one. Because we get even into more detail on what makes a good manager. Today, we've kind of vented about bad managers, and share your stories of managers you've worked with or experiences that you've had. I'll say this last thing is also sometimes working with a bad manager is part of the learning curve of being an artist. Like there's no shame in it. There's no, like, you don't ever enter a relationship and be like, this is a bad manager, so I'm going to work with them. No, like you work with people because you have the best intentions and you have the highest hopes. And so it's no shame. Sometimes that's just like the cost of doing business or the collateral, as you learn and build your skills and learn to trust your gut and know what to look for. So no shame, no judgment. But if you have those stories that you want to share and what it was like for you, what you learned, drop those in the chat or in the comments while you're also sharing, liking, and subscribing to the channel, because we want to look out for artists, and this kind of information dissemination is one of the ways that Sto and I try to do this for y'all.
Yeah, and the reality is it's all a web, to be completely frank. Like, you can take this episode, obviously take the manager episode. We talked about negotiations. I can't remember which one we did on this, but like we talked about like conflict within, partnerships and stuff like that. Like all of it together. It's just, you got to kind of, watch the damn episodes. But seriously, give yourself grace, because again, like Nora said, you don't see a manager, you're like, oh, this guy sucks, let's do it. But it does give you a chance to learn what to look out for. Because I think we all can admit that like scammers are running rampant. and so, it's very easy, and especially nowadays, it's easy to fall for the numbers and all this other crap. But like, if for a manager who's supposed to be your partner, your teammate, like you I'm not going to make the basketball analogy, but it's just like, you want someone who actually, this is going to sound corny, but cares about you. I understand it's all about placements and celebrity and how do I get my high-rise apartment, but it's just like, you want someone who actually cares about you, not even just about your career and stuff like that, but you as a person. When you make make it all about your opportunities and how can I level up and stuff like that, I just go be an artist then. So yeah, I don't know. Watch out for all these things. And don't be afraid. We say this too a lot. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Again, like any manager who actually has the credentials that like are worth bragging about also have no problem answering any questions that you have about working with them. Like, I feel like I've run into managers that do that too. Well, I work with such and such, and I've done this, and I went to this festival, and I did that festival. It's like, okay, great. Like, can you answer some of my questions here?
And check to see if what they're saying is actually true.
Exactly.
Like the way that people would be like, oh, I worked with this Grammy nominated da-da-da-da, and all they did was like respond to an email. Like, check the scope and scale of what people are claiming, because sometimes people I'm not going to say they lie, but they exaggerate.
No.
They don't. They lie. They lie.
Lead people to who, like, ask them who they work with and then follow up with them. Any manager that's not willing to allow you to do that, again, that's another immediate red flag. Like, because managers they'll be like, oh, well, I did this and I did this and I did this. Don't hit them up though. Like, what? Like that makes no sense. So yeah, take the time to ask those questions. Go to the people that they've worked with and ask how that goes. Because like Nora just said, the word always permeates no matter what. If they did good work, those artists will immediately be like, oh yeah, nailed it. But otherwise, and on the opposite end, they will let you know if it was bad too. So yeah, again, there are tons of red flags, I guess, to look for. But just don't be afraid to ask questions and get to know the person that's managing your dreams and vision and stuff like that.
Okay, I was going to say this is the last thing, is that piece about like, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. So you meet someone, you're trying to decide, maybe you do a project together or an event together to see what that, to see what that working relationship is like before you say, okay, let's manage, and you sign into a 3-year with options kind of contract. So you can give yourself, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, and you can give yourself space, and then you can always change your mind and opt out of a contract, right? Like, have an exit clause in your contract if you need. But again, that's why we have contracts. At the end of the day, y'all, like, music is a team sport. And what we want to do is help you pick the best team. You want the best teammates, you want the best managers, you want the best coaches, you want the best people around you. And that means having to practice, having to advocate, having to do all these things, because no one becomes successful on their own. Overnight success is a myth. That I did it by myself is a myth. And that relationship between an artist and manager can be so great if it's not terrible. And so that's what we want. We want to just give you all the skills and or at least something to think about so that you can build the right team around you. As always, if you have questions, you have things you want us to cover on a future episode, you fucking disagree with us and think that Sto and I are absolutely wrong, tell us in the comments and we'll have those conversations, because that's what office hours is all about. We want to make this kind of information easy and accessible for y'all. If you need one-on-one support, Sto and I are available for that. We also do dual consults where you get both me and Sto. Our ats are right here at the bottom, right here for both of us. So don't be shy about reaching out. Don't be shy about being curious. You don't have to commit. You can just ask some questions and we can decide, just like we said, we practice what we teach. We could decide if this is a good fit. If nothing else, share the episode. We're coming up on 100 episodes, which is wild, because I never thought I'd be like, oh my God, I'm a YouTuber. But here we are, Sto and I, 100 episodes in. Promise you we practice everything that we teach. Thank you for being part of our community. Sto?
Yeah. Yeah, we appreciate you all watching. Again, leave a like, make sure to subscribe, send this to somebody, your peers, other artists, et cetera, and definitely leave your experiences with managers below, because I know there are people watching who have definitely gone through the ringer. So yeah, we'd love to hear it. We'll be back in just a few weeks. Drink some water, get a website. Can't get a website, get a newsletter, and talk to yourself nice for once.
Bye.
We're out of here.